Throughout history, two forces have shaped the rise and fall of civilizations, religion, and political power. These pillars, one rooted in divine belief, the other in governance, have coexisted in an intricate, intertwined relationship. Rulers have relied on religion to legitimize their authority, while religious institutions have depended on political stability for their survival. Together they have defined societies, laws and moral frameworks. From the ziggurats of Mesopotamia to the divine pharaohs of Egypt, kings and gods were inseparable. In later eras, the rise of monotheism brought profound shifts, with faiths like Judaism, Christianity and Islam reshaping ideas of authority and justice. Even revolutionary movements like the Protestant Reformation revealed how religion could challenge and transform political power. Today, while the influence of religion on governance has evolved, its impact on laws, values, and societal debates endures. This documentary explores how religion and power have intertwined across centuries, molding the world we live in and leaving a legacy that continues to shape humanity. In the fertile land that stretched along the banks of the Nile River, an extraordinary civilization arose whose religious and political life were inseparable. Ancient Egypt, often referred to as the gift of the Nile, flourished for thousands of years due to the bountiful resources provided by the annual flooding of the river. But it was more than geography that allowed Egypt to become one of the most enduring civilizations in history. It was also the way its rulers intertwined religion and political power. Central to this was the concept of divine kingship, the belief that the pharaoh was not merely a human ruler but an earthly embodiment of the gods themselves, entrusted with the sacred duty of maintaining cosmic order. The role of the pharaoh in ancient Egypt was unique among the early civilizations. Unlike the kings of Mesopotamia, who were seen as intermediaries between the gods and their people, the pharaoh was considered to be a living god. He was the divine son of Ra, the sun god, and the earthly incarnation of Horus, the falcon-headed god of kingship and sky. This divine status gave the pharaoh not only the authority to rule, but also the religious obligation to ensure that Ma'at was upheld. The pharaoh's divine status was reinforced through elaborate rituals and temple ceremonies that reaffirmed his role as the protector of Egypt's cosmic order. One of the most important ceremonies was the Sed festival, a ritual of renewal that was performed after a pharaoh had ruled for 30 years. During this festival, the pharaoh would demonstrate his strength and vitality through a series of symbolic acts, reaffirming his ability to rule as a god-king. This ritual was not only a religious reaffirmation of the pharaoh's divine nature, but also a political statement to the people of Egypt that their ruler remained fit to maintain Ma'at. At the heart of Egyptian religious political life was the concept of Ma'at. The idea of cosmic order was not unique to Egypt. Other ancient civilizations also believed in a divinely ordained balance between good and evil, life and death. However, the Egyptians developed this concept to an extraordinary degree, embedding it into every aspect of their society. Ma'at was not simply a principle of moral behavior. It was the very force that sustained the universe. The rising and setting of the sun, the flooding of the Nile, the changing of the seasons, everything was believed to occur according to Ma'at. The pharaoh's primary responsibility was to maintain this balance through proper governance, religious observance, and justice. This responsibility extended to every level of Egyptian society, from the temples where priests performed rituals on behalf of the gods to the daily lives of ordinary Egyptians, who were expected to live according to Ma'at by following the laws and customs established by the pharaoh. One of the most enduring symbols of ancient Egypt's religious political power is the Great Pyramid of Giza, the last remaining wonder of the ancient world. The pyramids, while often thought of as tombs for the pharaohs, were much more than burial places. They were expressions of the pharaoh's divine nature and his connection to the gods. Through their construction, the pharaoh demonstrated his ability to marshal the resources of the state and perform his divine duty to ensure the continuation of Ma'at. The construction of the pyramids required a vast workforce and immense organizational skill, both of which were possible because of the pharaoh's absolute authority. The pyramids were built by skilled laborers who were provided with food, shelter, and clothing by the state. Contrary to popular belief, the pyramids were not built by slaves but by paid workers who saw their labor as a sacred duty. This work was performed in service of the pharaoh, who was believed to ensure the prosperity of Egypt by maintaining the cosmic order. The Nile River was central to the religious and political life of ancient Egypt, providing the foundation for its agricultural economy and the source of its wealth. The river's annual flooding deposited nutrient-rich silt onto the surrounding fields, allowing the Egyptians to grow abundant crops. This natural cycle was seen as a manifestation of Ma'at, with the regular flooding ensuring the survival of the people and the prosperity of the kingdom. The pharaoh, as the embodiment of divine order, was believed to have direct control over the flooding of the Nile. When the river flooded as expected, it was seen as a sign that the pharaoh had maintained Ma'at and that the gods were pleased. However, if the Nile's floodwaters were too low or too high, it could result in famine or destruction, which would be interpreted as a sign of divine displeasure. In such cases, the pharaoh's ability to maintain Ma'at would be called into question, threatening both his spiritual and political legitimacy. The pharaoh's role extended beyond being the guarantor of agricultural prosperity and divine protector of the cosmic order. He was also seen as the lawgiver and ultimate judge of Egyptian society. Just as the gods had set the laws of nature, so too was the pharaoh responsible for upholding the laws of human society. Egyptian law was seen as a reflection of divine justice, with the pharaoh serving as its earthly embodiment. While Egypt did not have a formal written legal code like Hammurabi's code in Mesopotamia, the pharaoh was seen as the ultimate source of legal authority. Justice was administered in the name of the pharaoh, and his decisions were believed to reflect the will of the gods. The legal system in Egypt was based on a combination of local traditions and royal decrees, with the pharaoh at the top of this hierarchical structure. While most pharaohs embraced the traditional religious and political system of Egypt, one ruler sought to radically change this relationship. Akhenaten, who ruled during the 18th dynasty, around 1353 to 1336 BCE, is best known for his attempt to introduce monotheism to Egypt, replacing the traditional pantheon of gods with the worship of a single deity, Aten, the sun disk. Akhenaten's religious revolution, often referred to as the Amarna period, was unprecedented in Egyptian history. The pharaoh not only shifted the focus of worship to Aten, but he also sought to diminish the power of the traditional priesthood, particularly the powerful priests of Amun-Ra at Karnak. By establishing Aten as the sole god and declaring himself the only intermediary between Aten and the people, Akhenaten centralized both religious and political power in his own hands. The belief in the pharaoh's divinity extended beyond his earthly reign. Upon death, the pharaoh was believed to journey to the afterlife, where he would join the gods and continue to protect Egypt from the forces of chaos. The journey to the afterlife was not an easy one, and the pharaoh had to navigate through the dangers of the underworld before he could be reborn as a god. To aid the pharaoh on his journey, elaborate tombs were constructed, filled with treasures, food, and other provisions that the pharaoh would need in the afterlife. The walls of these tombs were inscribed with spells from the pyramid texts, coffin texts, or the Book of the Dead, which were designed to guide the pharaoh through the underworld and protect him from its many dangers. The concept of divine kingship in ancient Egypt was more than just a religious belief. It was the foundation upon which the entire civilization was built. For over 2 millennia, the pharaohs ruled not only as earthly monarchs, but as gods incarnate, entrusted with maintaining the sacred balance of Ma'at. This delicate equilibrium between the cosmic order and the human world was reinforced through religious rituals, monumental architecture, and the absolute authority of the pharaoh as both a spiritual and political leader. The pharaoh's role as a living god ensured that his authority transcended the temporal concerns of governance. He was not merely a king, but the guarantor of the Nile's fertility, the protector of the people's souls in the afterlife, and the cosmic force standing between Egypt and chaos. By intertwining religion with politics, Egyptian rulers wielded a type of power that was all-encompassing, making rebellion not just a political act, but a sacrilege against the gods themselves.